Well, good morning again. It's so nice to be with you. One of the things that many preachers do, each of us at St. John's has a different approach, but one of the things we do is we read a passage and we just kind of pay attention to see if there's a word or a phrase that jumps out at us. Well, I usually read it 3 or 4 times and just listening for which part of that passage it speaks to me. Now, I have to tell you, I was very surprised this time around when the passage that came to me was, "Remain in the same house, eating and drinking whatever they provide. Do not move about from house to house." Now, of all the things that was in that passage, that was not the part that I thought was going to stick out to me, but it did. And as I meditated on it, it became clear that just maybe there's a principle for how we might consider living in that one pair of sentences. Some of you know back in 2006, my wife, who is an absolutely wonderful human being, and I'm not saying that just because she's sitting over there looking over my shoulder. My wife is a great woman, and she knows she's the best gift giver ever. She always knows just the right thing to buy for somebody. And on our 20th anniversary back in 2006, she gave me a great gift. She sent me to a monastery for a week. Now, many have argued that was a gift to herself. But it was still a great gift for me, and it had life-altering. I had a life-altering experience while I was there. Despite the peaceful, actually silent vibe that exists in the monastery, it's actually a really busy place because the brothers are in nonstop activities, planning and preparing meals, washing dishes, pots and pans, attending choir practice, writing sermons, cleaning guest rooms, planning retreats, teaching classes, meeting with guests for spiritual direction, tending the garden. It goes on and on and on. They are very busy men. 5 times a day, a bell rings. Morning prayer at 6, midday Eucharist, noonday prayer, evening prayer, and Compline at the end of the day. The bell rings, and when the bell rings, the brothers stop what they are doing. They stop immediately. If they're not already in their habits, they go and get their habits, and they line up outside of the chapel, and they process in for the appointed service. Watching that process day by day, I was struck by the fact that there didn't seem to be any resentment at all at their being interrupted. There was no frustration at having to break away from what they were working on. Rather, there was a sense that every time that bell rang, that thing that most of us would have interpreted as an interruption, they consider it an opportunity to pause and open their hearts to the Christ and to the Christ in each other. From their perspective, the ringing of the bell and their call to the chapel was a gift. Benedictine monks have to take a series of vows when they go into the monastery. One of the vows that they have to take is the vow of stability. It may come as a surprise to you that not all monasteries are alike. Some have better food, some have more comfortable beds, some have nicer facilities than others. Saint Benedict knew that, and one of his vows was you have to say, wherever you're accepted as a brother, that's where you're supposed to stay. You don't need to be monastery hopping, monastery shopping. That's not what you're here for. There's a great little book called Seeking God that was written by a woman named Esther DeWall. And Esther paraphrased the vow of stability. She paraphrased it like this: "This is where God wants me to be right now. My whole life has led me to this time, in this place, with these people. There's something I'm supposed to teach or something I'm supposed to learn. This is where God wants me to be right now." Contemplating this vow of stability, I ask myself, how might this affect my life? What if every time the phone rang when I was in the middle of enjoying a good book? What if every time the doorbell rang when I was right in the middle of paying our monthly bills? What if every time my phone buzzed with an incoming text when I'm in the middle of an important work assignment? What would my life be like if, instead of considering these things to be interruptions, inconveniences, annoyances, or otherwise nuisances, what if I took the approach the brothers in the monastery take? When the bell rings, I'm being called to open my heart and my mind to Christ and the Christ who dwells in that person who is interrupting me. That person on the other end of the phone. What am I supposed to learn from that person? What am I supposed to teach? To that person on the other side of the door, what am I supposed to learn from that person? What am I supposed to learn from and teach that person? To that person whose fingers typed that text that hit me right in the middle of writing a sermon, what if I said, instead of, I can't believe you're texting me, what if I said, God has put me in this time, in this place, with this person? What if I felt no irritation? What if I felt no resentment? What if I felt no frustration? Rather, what if I felt only gratitude that my whole life had led me to that point with that person in this time and in this place? Which is to say, my whole life has led me to this time in this place with Christ. What does Christ want to teach me in this moment? I invite all of you to consider what your life might be like if you didn't have the normal reactions to being interrupted. I wonder what your life would be if you adopted this vow of stability. This is where God wants me to be right now. Try it.